Welcome to the Sparky Coach podcast. This platform was built by Sparkies for Sparkies. We simply exist to make business owners more profitable, or businesses more profitable and more predictable. So we want to work with people that work hard because we love working hard too, that work smart because you got to be on top of the business, people that are kind because no one likes a dickhead. Am I right? People who want results because that's what we're here for, right? And people who want to be part of a like-minded community. So if you're interested in hearing more about the platform, please reach out and enjoy the podcast. What's up? The Crowe Show here, coming to you live from my childhood town, Crowe, at the library. So what a time. We flew to Sydney to go to Japan for a couple of weeks, so pumped to have a family holiday. There's a kids' ninja village they're going to look into. There's Disneyland. There's obviously the snow. There's Japan. What a time to be alive. So super frothing about that. But back in your own town is always interesting. And the renovations here, fantastic. So I rented a podcast room, and here we go. Anyway, enough about me. Coming into how to make money. Or how to ways to increase the money you're making is maybe a better way to put it. So this is sort of a follow-on to how to make $100,000 an hour, which was a fantastic pod just full of tips, tricks, hacks to make sure you're not losing money, because it's so easy in business to make money, and it's so unbelievably easy just to lose money, whether it's a conversation you didn't check something, you rushed a quote, a conversation you didn't have a quote you didn't send. All this kind of stuff just piles up to crazy amounts. And sometimes everything is really hard to see when you're in it. And it's not until you remove yourself from it that you will find, I can see clearly now the rain has gone, to paraphrase. Anyway, getting into how to make money or how to make more money, there's just in referencing totally here just to jobs. So every single job, I guarantee you've got jobs across your week or month or day that are losing money. And you've got jobs that are incredibly beneficial to making money. So if you look left to right across a job, there's only so many things that can go wrong. And that's a really interesting metric because it's actually quite simple. So if you compartmentalize the stages of jobs into three stages, there's the front costing or the quote or the proposal. Hey, I reckon we can do the job for. And whether you're in person, on the phone, via a text message, via email, you got the sexiest quote ever, and your Craig David sexy quote, which everyone's like, oh, make sure your proposal looks good. And it is important, but I think we'd all agree that relationship trumps like quote visuals. Quote visuals are important, but a relationship is essentially it's a draw four versus a draw two. In my opinion, you want to be building and establishing relationships. And also you could argue the quote proposal looking good, the quote getting back on time, being good to deal with, asking the right questions, asking good RFIs, requests for information, just being genuinely good to deal with and running a good business with a good reputation. That is increasing your reputation, your business's reputation, which is going to build relationships because people are like, I want to use that person. So it is important, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Some of our best clients, or when I say best clients, best performing clients don't have Instagram. They don't use social media, and they're winning quotes via text messages. Now, that's not every business model, but anyone that's dealt with really, really high-quality clients will tell you that relationship trumps everything. You're making deals over phone calls, via text messages. That's kind of the situation where you want to be getting to, building those relationships and providing a good product on-site and off-site is one of the best ways to do that. So don't give up is what I'm saying on the visuals and the sign writing and all that kind of stuff, but don't put all your eggs in that basket too. Go break some bread, go have a beer with someone, go have a kombucha with someone, go have a coffee with someone, and keep doing the right thing over time. Most people want to land into the best client straight away. And that only really happens when you have a pre-existing relationship with someone, a commercial client, industrial client, builder, all this kind of stuff, or someone who can give you repeat work. They're the best kind of client, someone with money and someone that's happy to pay for a good product and someone that can give you repeat work. Absolutely huge. So there's the front costing. Sorry, I will say that all the good clients will come. They will 100% come if you keep doing the right thing. And no one's saying you can't make money, but over time you will meet these people. The reality, as you work for 10 clients, then 20 clients, then 30 clients, then 40 clients, then 100 clients, and 200 clients, you're going to find those unicorn clients, those great clients. And they do exist and they are amazing. And when you get them, you got to hold on to them and smother them. No, don't do that. But you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. All right. So there's the front costing of the job, which is basically, I reckon we can do the job for that. And then there's the handling of the job, which is all your on-site work, your arrangement of materials, your organization, the transition of the quote to the on-site work, the handover, if you will. There's a baton change in that, like a 400-meter or 4x100-meter race. There's a baton change from site when you first have the walkthrough, and then to getting the quote over, there's a baton change. And there's another baton change from the quote being accepted to the first walkthrough on site. Then there's the handling, and then there's the delivery of that product. And at every stage of baton change, there is a huge risk. There is a huge risk. When the quote goes to the site, the quote gets accepted and goes to, yeah, let's do it on site, there is a risk. And just like a 4x100-meter relay, there's a risk. Did I jump too early? Did I jump too late? Did I change within the realm? Like, there's a huge risk because there's a transition period. And a lot of people are quoting well and handling ineffectively. Or they are quoting not so well, but you know what I'm going to say here? You're a godsend weapon. You're an absolute beast on the tools. And you're quoting poorly, but your efficiency, your skill set, your mojo, your ability on site is just connecting, and you're in the zone. You've got some sort of music blaring, and you're just ripping and tearing, gripping it and ripping it, and getting it done. And it's crazy to think that so many people are quoting incredibly poorly and handling so effectively that they're able to salvage some net profit out of the job. And especially if they're still on the tools, they're able to salvage a lot more because they're keeping the wage component of their rate. So you're only salvaging the job because you're a godsend weapon, and you're keeping the wage component, and you're directing the troops around you. Maybe you're using subcontractors, and it's like you're salvaging it only because of your handling. So you can cover up poor quoting with excellent work. I'll say that again, because most people lose when you transition to hire staff. Everyone's like, there used to be money and now there's no money. Rah! What happened? And it's like, tell you what happened. Of your hourly rate component, whether that's inserted into a price book or a fixed price or an hourly rate or whatever, you're keeping the majority of that. You're keeping 70% of that. Where on employee side, you're keeping 20 to 30% of that. Just a net profit. So it's absolutely psycho to quote things to your ability, and if you're a weapon, and all of a sudden you get people who aren't as good as you, and they're looking out and they're not doing it as good, and you're like, oh, where's the money? It used to be good. And you end up listening to that guy who's had 3 beers at the pub, who's been at the pub for 30 years, and he's like, there's no money in staff, buddy. And you're like, I knew it. The old crazy guy was right. And he is right. There's no money in it if you're pricing best case scenario, best case person, best case all the time. Things go wrong, things happen, and when in the transition of labor and materials, you can drop the ball. So you got to work out: am I quoting properly? So there's the front costing, there is the handling, and then there is the back costing. Now most people only quote and handle, and they neglect the back costing. And there's absolutely, like, you're missing a third of the beast, right? So you'd almost say there's 4 parts. There is the front costing. I reckon we can do it 4. There is the handling, which is the on-site performance. There is the back costing, which is what actually happened. Because quoting's, this is what I think is going to happen. And handling's like, this is what happened. And the back costing is referencing both of those. And then you've got the change that needs to happen. So you've got the original front cost, you've got the handling, you've got the back costing, and then you've got, well, what did I learn from this? Do we need to do this again, or do I need to stop doing this? Does something need to change? Is my price book item incorrect in that sense? Well, what did I get right? What did I get wrong? And what change is going to affect from this? Do I need to add a travel fee? Do I need to change my price book for this GPO? Do I need to change my foundational pricing book to suit deck work? What did I miss in the quote? And jobs of all sizes can be back costed. It's just the longer the job, the longer it is to get your reference of how did the job go, right? It's you might have nailed the rough-in stage, nailed the deck work stage, and you might have forgotten that you needed to have someone at the concrete pour for 1 day over 10 days over that job. You might have forgotten that, oh my gosh, I forgot the car loop, the induction loop. I forgot there was off-form walls in basement 2, or whatever size job. There's going to be things that went good and things that went not good. But the most interesting part is left to right across the job. What can go wrong? Let's start on the left. And this is, you've got your revenue, you've got your quote excluding GST. So first and foremost, the only thing that gives revenue context is what it includes. So, and the only thing gives net profit context is what the revenue was. So you need both metrics. We're going to go through from revenue right through to the handling, how many hours it took, right through to who was there, tradie apprentice, and then right through to the materials, and then right through to your overhead costs, and then right through to your net profit. So essentially, it's so interesting because if you looked at a job and let's just say this job went poorly, doesn't matter the size of the job, just this was a disaster zone. And you look at it and you go, okay, that's a disaster. Firstly, congratulations for back costing because you know it's a disaster. What's worse than having a disaster of a job? Not knowing you had a disaster of a job. What's worse than closing the week and having a bad result? Not closing the week. What's worse than closing the month and having a bad result? Not closing the month. So what's worse than having a bad result? Not knowing you had a bad result. It's so crazy to think that most of us are just operating in the quote and handling stage, and there's no back costing or change. And the money's made a loss in the office. When we can back cost and we can change, then we can make some progress. And most of us spend our life catching up. We're just catching up on invoices, catching up on quoting, catching up on, I'd love to do that, but I don't have time. And I said this on Insta the other day, if you've got time on site to go and double check that everything's working or your PowerPoints are working, but you don't have time to double check every job for net profit and every day for profitability, then you don't have a busyness problem, you have a priorities problem. If you can go, hey, I fit that PowerPoint off, I'm pretty sure it works. I fit that data point off, I'm pretty sure it works. I fit that board off, I'm pretty sure it works. You would never, ever, ever do something so psycho. It's crazy. Can you imagine someone working for you, fitting a switchboard off and just turning it on and be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. How'd that go? Yeah, I'm pretty confident. Yeah, I'm confident. And then imagine getting a call from the client and the client's like, oh, the data point's not working, the PowerPoint's not working in this studio. You would go off the Richter scale. You'd go category 4 something. Just hurricaning through. Who didn't test this? Why didn't you test this? I've given you everything to test this. And it's a similar concept when you don't test jobs and you get a phone call from your accountant once a quarter, once a year. Hey, you owe this in tax. Hey, you've been taking too much money. Hey, you didn't make the money you thought. Hey, your net profit's not where you thought it was. Hey, your gross profit's not where you thought it was. When you get that call, you can only really blame yourself. And I really want to encourage you to grab that. You can only really blame yourself for this stuff. If you're too busy to check every job and every week and every day for profitability, you are in fact too busy. And most of us want to be on the right side of a good financial year. Yeah, we did good this year. And our goal is you would achieve a market wage and a net profit of 20 to 35%. That's the goal. And I want to encourage everyone to shoot for that, And even on that, one thing I've been doing recently, which will come out in our new workbook at the start of the new financial year, is like, have a think about what's an okay result? What's an okay result and what have I got to do for it? I'm talking in the make money stage of business, a net profit of 20 to 35%. What are you okay with and what have you got to do for it? What's a good result and what have you got to do for it? And what's an outrageous result? What's an excellent result? What would you be, oh my gosh, I cannot believe we achieved that. And what have you got to do for that? Because most of us want the outrageous result without the effort to input to get that. Most of us want to have a great financial year. And what is a great financial year? We're talking, yeah, our revenue was good, our gross profit was good, and our net profit was good. Play on. But what is revenue and what is gross profit and what is net profit? It's just the consistent exchange of labor and materials and operating a business for money, for good money. And if you're not checking, if you're just checking yearly, yeah, it wasn't what I thought. That sucks. You can't change that. Like, it's very hard to know what to change. If you're checking daily, if you're on your daily discipline, if you're on your daily measuring, if you're on your weekly measuring, if you're closing the week, as we love to preach here in Sparky Coach, you're finding out the nuances and, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I thought that job was quoted well. I thought we handled that job well. I thought that job would have killed it. Actually, that job did kill it. Where's my net profit per hour on that? Oh, that job it looked 13%. I sat with someone yesterday and there was a job for 13% net profit, which is orange in our workbook. And it's like, if you looked at the 13%, you would be like, change that, change that now. But the net profit per hour was one of the best performers all week. And it's like, okay, so that 13% undesirable net profit per hour performing, do that again. And so many of us only stop at the net profit metric without the net and gross profit per hour metric, which is arguably the most important exchange. How can I do the same thing? How can I work the same hour? How can I do that while making more money, while performing better? That's what we want to do. We want to perform better with less time. So crazy to think that some of us just go year to year or quarter to quarter and just literally pissing in the wind. And it's all good. Anyone that comes into our program and closes the week, it's not even a good idea. It's not even a great idea. It's not even an excellent idea. It's just what has to happen. If you're going to be in the labor and materials exchange, it's just what has to happen. And so many people come in and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm learning so much. And it's week on week on week on week on. They might be good at 4 to 6 weeks or 4 to 8 weeks of measuring. And then 2 months later, what happened? Oh, I got, say it with me now, you got what? You got busy. Too busy to check if you're making money? That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Too busy to see if your jobs are profitable? Too busy to see if you should keep doing what you're doing? That's too busy. That's in fact too busy. And so many times in life, we know what works and we steer away from it. Why do we do that? We know what works in a healthy relationship, kindness and thinking of the other person consistently and treating other people well. That's what works. And it's so easy to veer from what works. We know what works in the business: measuring, checking, testing, chopping, changing to make sure everything's working. That's what works. We know what works. We know what works. Exercising works. And it's one of the first things to go when we get what? When we get busy. So if you're too busy, you might just be too busy. And that might be a priorities issue. That might be you need to hire someone. There's plenty of things going on there. But my encouragement is at some point, you've got to slow down. You've got to stop, collaborate and listen, vanilla ice style, and be like, where am I going, right or wrong? And in closing the week, we're always looking at this. We're looking at that front costing. So left to right on a job. You go, okay, was the original quote right? It's a big one. It's an absolutely big one because so many people are using some sort of price book or some sort of hourly rate, and every client's going to be, you're going to have to play the cards as you're dealt them. Every client's a little bit different in what you need to play, but let's just say no matter how you play it, there is a revenue metric. This is the money coming in from that work we performed. Okay, this one was $2,000, $20,000, $50,000. Was it right? So in back costing a job, you're looking at the original quote. Was the original quote right? And then let's just say in this case, I double checked it. Yeah, that job should taken this long with that much materials. I got there via that price book. I double checked it with the quote checker. Yeah, that was right. And you look at the handling of the job, and you're like, oh, I actually quoted this for 2 weeks, for 2 days, for 4 weeks. And it actually took the guys 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 3 days. Like it took them longer than I thought. Okay, what happened there? Oh, okay, I kept moving them around. So you've got let's say your front cost, your quote was right, and then your handling. What is the handling part of it? The handling is the exchange of labor and materials, the performance of labor and materials. Did you take longer than you thought? Did you hit it with one more apprentice than you thought? Did you hit it with one more subcontractor than you thought? Did you quote it at a $45 an hour tradie, and it's actually $55 an hour for the tradie? This is crazy, and I want you to take this in. What components make up your hourly rate? There is a wage component, there is a super component. The wage component's pretty typically $45 to $55 an hour, or 40 to 50, depending on where you live and what's happening. You got your super, which is fixed. You really shouldn't change that one. That's 12% or 3%, I think, if you're in NZ. And then you've got your overhead per billable resource per hour. And this one is psycho. So we've got people on $20 an hour overhead and some on $65. So it's a $45 difference in profitability. So some people's break even is $80 for a tradie, and some people's break even is $130 for a tradie. And you look at that and be like, so someone can do the same job for the same money and be so much more profitable. So this is why, operating off someone else's pricing structure, operating off someone else's price book, operating off someone else's hourly rate is crazy. If Jimmy is here, welcome back, Jimmy. I've missed Jimmy. If Jimmy's here, and Jimmy is a disgruntled 55-year-old tradie who's seen it all. They've had staff, they've lost staff. They've had clients, they've lost clients, and they're still working like it's 1990 on $40 an hour. They're not paying their super. They've paid for their car. They've got no sign writing. They drive a 1999 Hi-Ace that's still trucking. God bless Toyota, by the way. And their tools are all metal. There's no insulation or anything. It's like they're obviously able to do the same thing for less money. The same thing for less money. And picture them in a lifestyle sense. Maybe they bought their house when they were 25. And maybe they own their house. And maybe they've got money coming in from different ways. There's no real responsibility to make money. And they're not really checking anything, so they think that money is correct. So it's like that's just an exaggerated example of who sometimes you can compare your rate to, who you can compare your break even to. Or flip it, and this is why the revenue metric is so cooked, because you don't know people's break even. So some people are like, I do 100K months, I do 200K months, I do 500K months. Cool. Well, what of that are you keeping? If you're sinking so much into advertising, so much into the operating expenses, you've got all the bells and whistles. You've got 3 BDMs, which is business development manager. You've got 2 salespeople, and you're training people up and through the ranks. Well, I want to know what you're keeping. I don't want to know what you're just bringing in. I want to know what you're keeping of that too. And you also need to reference. You don't need to reference what's coming in. Yes, it's incredibly important. Is the correct amount coming in or near the correct amount coming in? But what am I keeping of that? I can do a 100K month, and there might be an $80,000 switchboard order in that. Cool. Sweet. I lost 50 grand, but at a 100K month. So back to where I was going. Front costing. Is the original price right? Handling. Did I capture the variations? Crazy. That one, you could stop the podcast now, and that's enough information. Did I capture any variations? Was the job notes correct from the quote, and did they transition well? Did they land? Was a tradie, an apprentice, or 2 tradies on site, or 1 tradie on site, were they able to articulate what was originally quoted, and did they know the scope? And did they have the existing plans in place? Did it take longer than I thought or less than I thought? Of the hours, what was the quality of those hours? Was it same person, consecutive days, with the materials and all the plans intact? You got to reference this stuff. How did you perform on that? Was it good? Was the job handled well? And did the handling match how I priced it? Did the carpet match the drapes? Too many people are unaware of how they got to that number of 20 grand 50 grand, 2 grand. Oh yeah, that's what they were charging. Cool. Well, how did they get to that number? Was there a labor and materials metric in there? And I don't know why it gets me, but when people don't break down quotes or they're unable to break down, I just don't understand the ego. Like I don't understand. I just don't understand. Like if the client's like, oh, can I get a breakdown? And it's like, yeah, it's this much to do the job, that much to not do the job. And everyone's like, yeah, I know your worth. It's like, how do you expect to build a long-term relationship with that level of ego or that level of insecurity? Like, I don't know how I got to that number. So it's 10 grand or I'm not doing it. I'm doing it for 0. Like, do you think that's going to play into the long-term nature of building a relationship with that client? Tell me, I don't understand. Like it's crazy. Too many people just think in the moment and they react to things. And you know, you got to be proactive and less reactive. And if the client asks for a breakdown and you know, the job was break even was 6 grand and you threw $20,000 on the quote, well, of course they're going to want a breakdown. If of course they're going to want a second price if you can't be actively part of building a relationship together. No one's saying you can't make money, but the great clients, good clients, a lot of those clients that are absolutely incredible are pushing into cost plus models because it's a fair transaction. We can trust what you're doing. We're happy you're making your 25% margin, which is great if you're moving volume. And then, yeah, and you're providing me work. I don't have to advertise. I don't have to have a website. I don't have to Instagram. I don't have to do anything. I've just got you call, I do. Don't have to quote. All my office staff are billable because we're just charging them on this person. That's an exaggerated example, but there's other ways to skin the cat rather than one. So you're always referencing the handling component. And if someone asks for a breakdown and they're a good client, go sit with them. Go have a coffee. Show them the quote checker. Show them how you arrived to that. Offer them. Last week, I sat with someone and they quoted, they got in, but they got a phone call from an excellent client. Now, you know those excellent clients, you know, they do awesome commercial work, awesome industrial work, just awesome work, and they do lots of it. So what is an excellent client? Someone who can give you a lot of work, someone who has money, and someone who is not scared to pay a premium price. That's pretty much an ideal client, right? And someone you can partner with for the next 20 years. That's what we're all sort of after. And he was like, I've got the price together and it's coming to $18,000. I'm a bit nervous because if I send it, he might think it's too expensive. You know those jobs that you look at and you're like, fine, I can see how someone thinks that's a 10 grand job, but this is an 18 grand job. I can see how someone thinks that's a 100 grand job. This is a 150 grand job. I said, just call him, tell him. There's a few variables. So I was like, tell him it's going to cost 15 grand best case and 18 grand worst case. If you quote it, you're going to have to steer towards the worst case because that's what a quote is. It's an exchange of risk. And if it's cost plus, they take the risk. Am I going to perform it in due diligence under a banner of a budget? Or if it's quoted, it's my risk. I'm saying I can do that job in that time frame for that amount. So I take the risk. So it's just a transition of risk. And I said, just tell him it'd be 15 grand, 15 to 18 if you want it on a cost estimation, or 18 if I quote it. And there's argument to say, quoting you make more money. There's another argument to say cost estimation, everyone wins. As we're still making our margin, we're retaining our minimum margin of 20%. And the client's getting a good result. I'm getting a good result. Just in a relationship that's ongoing, both parties have to consistently win or feel like they're winning. That's the relationship. One side just can't win all the time. That's a dictatorship. And I think you've just, in the scheme of work and workmanship and materials and exchange of labor and materials for money, so many people are just so hard to deal with. And you wake up one morning and you're like, why don't I have any clients? It's like, it's because you're a dickhead. That's why you don't have clients, because you're pillaging the village. And then you're wondering why no one in the village wants to talk to you. It's because you took advantage of that person. It's because you did that. It's because you did that. Because you weren't honest. You weren't transparent. You were hard to deal with. You were hard to work with. Or you were excellent to work with at the front costing, but the handling sucked. You sent me 2 third-year apprentices that had no idea. It was just illegal. And you said you were going to use this material, you use this. So the handling part of it is just like, how did it go? How many hours did the carpet match the drapes? Did I move the materials that I thought? What was my overhead? Do I know my overhead? How do I change my overhead? And too many people are bad-mouthing apprentices. Oh, they're so expensive. And they are. I'm not discounting that. But in certain types of work, they can be so beneficial and so profitable. If you can raise someone up from within that stays with you for 10 years, it's amazing the money you can make off that person. And if you can get them in to lower your overheads while still being billable, that's a great time for all parties involved. A great time. It's probably a topic for another day, but a great time. So you've got your front costing. I reckon I can do it for. You got the handling, which is how you performed in the exchange of labor and materials on site. And then you've got the back costing. And the back costing is like, where did the job go? Left to right, where did it go right? Where did it go wrong? Did it go correct did it go good? And if so, can I do it a bit better next time? Can I increase from 22 to 26% net profit, from 30 to 34% net profit? How can I do a bit better? Or is it play on, right? And so many people in the back costing stage are like, holy crap, I'm yet to see someone not learn major amounts from our workbook. Like, if it looks like double handling, it is double handling. This is exactly what it is. It's exactly the point of it, right? And it also looks to me like testing that PowerPoint is double handling. You've already fit that off. It's working. I fit it off personally. It's red, black, and green. It's done. Don't test it. I did it. It works. That's crazy, right? You need an independent commission, a PowerPoint tester. Come over, do it. You need a data tester. Does it work? I fit it off. Who cares who fit it off? Does it work? It's way more important that it works. And the money's made lost in the office if you just get that time to back cost. And most people spend their time catching up or maintaining. And the definition of catching up is always being behind in quotes and invoicing. The definition of maintaining is that you're sending invoices and sending quotes, but you're not really checking anything. And you're just maintaining, right? You're fulfilling, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of craziness. And the definition of progress in the business is you're checking jobs for net profit, and you're checking jobs for net profit before you send it, the front cost, and you're checking jobs for net profit before you send the invoice. Like, that's a bit of TLC into the quoting and invoicing stage, a bit of improvement there, a bit of like, hey, that looks a bit different. I'm going to make a phone call. Hey, this quote looks like it's going to blow out. I'm going to call them and double check that if they want me to include all this. Hey, this scope doesn't really need to be at this for stage one. I'm going to peel it back. Hey, this invoice is a bit more than we thought. I'm going to call and just make sure it's okay, right? That's what you're sort of hoping to achieve. So interesting to be like, the back costing part, you're always going to learn a lot at that stage. And when you see it, if you're a visual person, one of our clients, who shall remain nameless, sat through one of their first sort of closing the weeks the other day, and they got to see everything in a row. And they were like, holy crap, I get it now. And it was so interesting because I can hear numbers and sort of make sense of them. That's just how my brain works. But some people need to see it. They're looking at it going, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I was running this whole service division for $200 profit. I did all that work. I did all that intellectual property, all that labor, all those materials, and I made 7% net profit. The back costing shows you, did you quote it correctly and did you handle it properly? And if you quoted correctly and handled correctly and you still lost money, guess what? You need to up your prices. If you quoted incorrectly and handled well, you might need to still up your quoting stage. If you quoted effectively and handled poorly, hey, you got to change. Something has to change between the quote and the site work. Maybe those staff members genuinely suck. Maybe the transition needs to be a bit more care. Maybe you can't just be so busy that there's no TLC across bits and pieces. So it's there clean as day. Maybe your overheads are too high. Maybe your overheads are too low and you need to get an admin in there. Maybe you're on costing a price and a skill set, if you're still on the tools, that is unsustainable into the future. So many moves. It's so simple and so complex at the same time. And then the last one is you've had the front cost. I reckon we can do it for. You've had the handling, which is performing on site. You've had the back costing, which is referencing those two. Plus, did I capture variations? Now you got change. Do you change or stop? And that's your two options. If something's not working, to continue would be not great. And to not affect any change would be crazy. right? And that's the definition of insanity. Do the same thing twice and expect a different result. If you keep plowing that field again and again and again, not planting any seed, not planting any good seed, or it's going to result in a bad result. So change. Do you need to change or stop it? And if you just simplify it to those two, so, okay, do I need to stop working for that client? Do I need to stop working with that staff member? Do I need to stop using those materials? Do I need to stop quoting in a rush? Do I need to stop quoting over the phone? Do I need to stop using that price book from 1995? Do I need to import my wholesaler receipts into my job management software? What do I need to stop? And before you just say no, because most people lose money on a job and just be like, that client's a dickhead. Bah. Bah. Before you stop, I think you should consider changing. Before you go and change wives every time there's an argument or there's a spanner in the works, maybe you need to just be like, okay, what happened? Where was the fault? From left to right, where was the fault? Oh my gosh, it's when I said this. Oh my gosh, it's when I did that. Oh my gosh, it was the handling. And if you look left to right, you'll see a really linear nature. And so often we're so good at coming to a house that has no power or no lights, and we're like, okay, sweet, well, there has to be a problem somewhere. I'm going to find it because I'm the GOAT of fault finding. And you need to be the GOAT. You need to be the GOAT of fault finding numbers too. Same thing, same concept. It's like left to right, where did it go wrong? Where did it go right? Let's do that again. Where did it go wrong? Let's change it. So and this stuff is so easy to say. I'm aware of that, and I want you to sort of change your mindset. It's like it's so easy to say from an office. Anything is so easy to say from an office, but it's actually quite easy to do. This would be 20% of your week. This is going to be 1 day a week that you need to sort of do 4 hours a week, 2 hours a week, depending on your size of your business. It's going to be basically 20% of the hours you put through you're going to need in the office, something like that, right? So it's actually quite simple, but the hardest thing is doing the boring stuff in business. The hardest thing is double checking everything for net profit. The hardest thing is making time for the non-negotiables. It sounds so obvious, and it is so obvious, but there's a blockage in there. And what you got to confront is, why is there a blockage in there? And you need to fix that. Most people don't have a busyness issue. They have a priorities issue. And if we keep claiming it's busy, you're going to get it nowhere because you're just going to be busy in 2 or 3 weeks in. But if it's a priorities issue, you can fix that. And if it's like, I'm not using my time effectively, that you need to stop. You stop and change. If it's not working, stop and change it. So hopefully you learned something on how to make more money and the importance of closing every single week. And we're hell-bent on that, and we'll never stop being hell-bent on that because it works. And anything that works, we need to do it again and again and again. And when it gets boring, we get up and we do it again and again and again. When it gets monotonous, we do it again and again and again. When I think, I'm going to pivot, no, I've got boundaries, I've got priorities, and this has to happen. Bless ya. See you soon. That's a wrap on another podcast. Whatever you're doing, don't be too busy to stop and check if you're making money. And above all else, you know the rules, be kind. See you soon.